After months of delay, Dune Part 2 is finally out in theaters, and I finally got a chance to check out this film and tell you guys what I think about it. So let's talk about it. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. Welcome into the channel if you are new to the channel. And if you are new to the channel, definitely hit that subscribe button. I review all kinds of movies on this channel. Today we'll be talking about the sci-fi action film called Dune Part 2, which was directed by Denis Villeneuve. And he did the first Dune film, he's done Arrival, and he's also done Prisoners as well. The film has a stacked cast. It stars Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken, Austin Butler, and many others, and it is about Paul, Chani, and the Fremen getting their revenge on those who destroyed Paul's family. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of background on Dune as a whole and really how I feel as a whole of this franchise. Now, when I went to go see the first Dune, I didn't even know there was a book. I didn't know anything about it. I went into the film very blind when I first saw that first film, and I honestly didn't really like it. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I didn't really understand the hype of it and why people really love that film. Now, recently, I did watch the first film over again at home, and I can say that I really did like it a lot more. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on a second rewatch. I definitely understood a lot more, really understand like certain things within the lore, and it's a little bit to really just get into the lore of this. And if you really don't know a whole lot, if you didn't read the books, because I'm sure there's like a ton of things within the book that isn't included in these films, it's a little bit hard, I think, for some of the general audience to really get into, especially with that first film, because it is a little bit slower pace and it's a lot of building towards the second film, as this is supposed to be in 3 parts as well. After watching that first film again and going into this second film, I can say that I was a lot more hyped going into this film. First off with this film, it feels very big. It feels like in a long time we haven't had a film this big. Visually, this film, it's stunning. I'm sure you've heard it all by now that this film, the way it's shot, the visuals, I mean, it's amazing. It looks great on screen, and you need to see it in the biggest screen possible because the sound in here, it's done so well. Now, for me, I didn't get to see it in IMAX. There wasn't a lot of times. I wanted to check it out after work, and the times weren't really lining up because this is almost a 3-hour movie. And with like previews and everything, it's over 3 hours at that point. So it's a lot of time to invest into this film. So I do understand from some of the main audience, this may be a little bit to really get into and just kind of plan your time ahead and actually go to the theater and check this out for 3 hours. Completely understand that. But I can say, even with not seeing this in IMAX, the sound is still amazing. You feel everything. I had the IMAX theater right next to my theater, and I can tell you the sound was absolutely bumping in that theater. It was vibrating through the walls, and I was like, damn, if I was in that theater, it would have been even more of a heightened experience. The score, I really appreciated that in this film, even though it was that desert setting, they didn't overuse like that, because that's what I thought the score was going to be in this film. But it actually is a really dark score, and they really use it to perfection in this film, particularly when they go into this black and white scene and they are introducing like the Harkonnen and like their way of life. They introduce Austin Butler's character. I thought his character was really menacing. First thing that kind of came to mind is Thor: Love and Thunder, when they introduce Gore the God Butcher. They didn't do a really good job with his character. He looked really cool and everything, but that character, it never really panned out. In this film, Austin Butler, his look, he is the leader. He's taking over the Harkonnen. I really did enjoy that. I definitely enjoyed him on screen and his presence. I really felt like he was menacing, and I felt like anybody that double-crossed this guy, he was going to kill him. Timothée Chalamet in here. Now, if you guys know me, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of him as an actor. I just never felt like he's really hit his stride as an actor. And the last film that I saw him in was Bones and All, which I thought was a terrible film. I never saw Wonka yet. I definitely want to check that out eventually. But I've just never really been attached to him as an actor. I felt like he gave a really good performance. And here he proved me wrong. He did absolutely a phenomenal job. He has a lot of different things in his character arc in this film. Chani, played by Zendaya, she's in this film a lot more. That was a complaint in the first film. And she does a really good job with her role as well. There is an establishing relationship with love in here that kind of goes a little bit haywire. You have lots more action in this film. The first film, it definitely lacked action, and there's a lot of action in here. There was one scene where they had like a bazooka and they blow this guy to bits and he goes smashing into like the ship, and I was like, hell yeah, that's what I want to see. Those kind of big moments in the film, you know, you get that big smile while you're in your seat. Those kind of moments in this film are what really make you want to come back to the movies, make you feel something, make you feel like you have emotional attachment to certain characters, which they do have in this film, and I really did appreciate about this. Rebecca Ferguson playing Lady Jessica. She gets really dark in this film. She has a prophecy that's going on with her as well, and they have a cameo of a certain character that I hope is in the third film, because they start to kind of foreshadow that certain character, and I was like, when we saw that character on screen, I was like, ooh, I really hope they're in the third film. I really like that person, so won't spoil who the cameo is, but I was really excited when I saw that person on screen. There's a lot more stakes in this film. Some of the action scenes with the sandworms were absolutely done so phenomenal. The sheer density and the height and just how in depth these sandworms actually are, I mean, it is just so cool to see on screen. And some of those action scenes that are with those sandworms, it was done so well. I definitely was just like clapping. I was like, hell yeah, this is definitely something I was looking to actually see, because in the first film, we didn't get a lot with the sandworms, and I'm glad they were included a lot more in this film. Now, there are other things in this film, like a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of manipulation of religion and how certain people will follow a certain prophecy and certain people may follow a certain religion, and then you're trying to convince others and manipulate them into that said religion, and also establishing like a prophet and everything like that. Those kinds of things are in this film, and if you really like that kind of thing, you're going to absolutely enjoy this film. The few negatives that I had about this film is, firstly, some of the characters that don't have a lot to do. Firstly, you have Florence Pugh. Now, when she's on screen, she does a great job in what she's actually given, but she doesn't really have much of a prominent role here, which is a little bit disappointing. Dave Bautista, I didn't think he really had that great of a performance. I've seen him do a lot better in other films. I felt like in this film, he really is just kind of yelling and just really angry, and I just really didn't feel like he had much to really offer in that performance. The other thing too with this film, and this doesn't really bother me that much, but for some of the general audience, this is going to be a little bit too complex. It's definitely one of those films where you have to pay attention. You can't be paying attention to your phone or looking at text. You've got to watch this film through and through and actually pay attention to what everybody is saying. And that's when I think a lot of people with the first film, because there is a lot going on even with that first film, and even with this film as well, it's a little bit difficult, I think, for a general audience to really love this film all the way. The ending, it definitely ends in kind of the same kind of manner as the first film, which doesn't necessarily bother me all the way, but I'm gonna throw it in the cons just because, yeah, it just kind of ends on a cliffhanger, which I feel like if you watch the first film, you kind of felt that way already, because you know that there's a third film coming soon, so you kind of knew it was going to end on a certain way, so I'm throwing that into the cons of the film. Overall, I can tell you guys that this film is absolutely worth checking out in theaters. I would give it a score of a 4 out of 5. It's definitely a film that is visually stunning, sound is great acting all around, and definitely has more action in this film, and the pacing is done a lot better in this film than the first film. So I highly recommend that you guys check this film out in theaters. However, I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about Dune Part 2? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Let me know any and all comments down in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.